Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Benjamin of rbwins.com, and it's Thursday, May the 19th. And you know what Thursdays mean? I'm joined by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com, first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion, and not only in handicapping, but in life in general. So anyway, Doug, how are you, my friend?
I felt kind of funny. I feel like we hadn't talked in so long. I feel like I had to reintroduce myself, from that standpoint. But everything is going well. Just, we have another, that's just how the sports world is. We have another exciting weekend ahead. Not the Preakness race isn't the biggest deal, and not having the Kentucky Derby winner in there certainly takes away some of the luster. But you know what? In 40 years, nobody's going to remember that. And whoever wins this race, their name will be emblazoned on there forever. So that's what really matters about it this weekend. Plus, NBA, NHL, oh my goodness, along with baseball, fantastic stuff going on, Ross.
Let me pick your brain on the Preakness. I have a question. The Kentucky Derby winner, why would they pass on the Preakness after winning the Derby? Yet this is the same horse the management was notified 24 hours before, basically 24 to 32 hours before the Kentucky Derby, that they were going to be a late entry, flew the horse into New York, or from New York to Louisville, and now they pass upon the Kentucky Derby. For somebody who doesn't follow horse racing on a daily basis, and it's just a sports fan, can you see where I'm going with this question?
Oh, absolutely. No, it's a perfectly good question. And the answer, quite honestly, is simple, is that horse racing breeding has changed dramatically over the last 20 to 30 plus years. It was used to be horses could run every 2 to maybe 3 weeks, and on the outside, maybe a month. Yeah. Today, it is unusual for a horse to run even every 3 weeks, okay? Unless, for example, there was maybe a modest foot injury that took it out, or something, or it just ran so poorly that the trainer and the owner want to get it back out there. But by and large, horses don't run every 2 weeks, okay? And so then, and with the Belmont, which is 3 weeks, but that's also the longest race, from that standpoint. So these 3-year-olds, they're just not bred that way anymore. And so everybody has a different agenda, kind of how they want to look at it. But for the most part, and this has a lot to do with why so many Kentucky Derby horses did not come forward, is that, it doesn't necessarily make sense for the well-being of the horse. And in a lot of cases, not the case of Rich Strike in terms of what people paid for it, for what the owners paid for it, but it doesn't, if you're taking this horse and, you're looking to the champion just to breed it, if it won a Triple Crown or won 2 of the 3, and you just have a horse, that has the pedigree and everything from its birth from prior horses. If your vision is more, you're going to race this horse and you think you got a horse that could run for 5 or 6 years, it doesn't really make sense to do it that way. I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's kind of now what goes on in horse racing.
Just like any other sport, the modern way of thinking evolves, and
protect your assets. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Look you bought the horse for 30 grand, correct?
Right.
All right. You won the Derby, you scooped up 1.8 million. Not only winning the Derby, people don't realize all of a sudden now the stud fee for this horse, when it comes time and they put him out to pasture, is going to be enormous, just because he won the Kentucky Derby.
You would think, you would think, but the downside is, a horse. But if all of a sudden this week he runs, he finishes 7th or 8th, and everybody would just be, oh well, there you go. So that's the other, it's like, I forget the year, Big Brown, you might remember that name from, won the first 2 races, got into the Belmont, and when it came around the far turn, it was in last place. It had nothing left. And that was the end of that, and you really haven't heard Big Brown's name or you did, I shouldn't say immediately afterwards in any races, you really didn't hear from that horse again, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah, right. I get that. But at the end of the day, I would think, Doug, and you're more of a connoisseur on this than I am by a long stretch, but I would think the Big Brown's stud fee would be a pretty sizable amount. But what do I?
See, that's one thing I honestly that I really don't follow that closely. It's just
Yeah.
more I'm more interested in the horse racing aspect of it.
No, I got you.
Or
I'm looking at the business side of it. You know
oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
right. Well, I know
Yeah.
you're the sharp mind here, so that makes sense to me.
Boy, you need to elevate your expectations, buddy. Anyway, all right. So how about the NBA? Let's talk a little NBA. By the way, folks, we're going to have a couple Major League Baseball free selections for you on Friday, the 20th. But before we get to those, a couple other topics of discussion, the NBA playoffs. Doug, we saw both home teams in the conference finals really put on an impressive display. Much to my chagrin, Boston lost game one. Boy, oh boy, these site owners want us to get the picks up early yet. I put Boston up early and then come to find out Al Horford tests positive for COVID. And then they decide to hold out Marcus Smart, who is slated to play tonight in game two. But in any event, Doug, any observations you saw that might be worth sharing with the
well, it's just, I mean, the only, the obviously that the Celtics played so well in the first half was quite a surprise. That it was remarkable, and obviously it was also a surprise to Miami. So they came out and started playing better basketball. In particular, Jimmy Butler, or Jimmy Buckets, as the people like to call them. I mean, he's an underrated player.
Yeah.
But in these situations, he seems to come up big, and the bigger the game, and that's what you want from your superstar, right? I mean, the bigger the game, the more he comes to play. And it's almost like, it was funny because they showed some of the highlights of it too. It's almost like he had an eye on the inside of his head looking towards the right. It had like another eye, like a horse, for example, off to the side, because how he was able to, some of the steals that he made to where he was, sneaking a peek, to see the anticipation of the pass. So, really impressive performance by them. Golden State just dismantled Dallas. Is there much to take away from either game necessarily? I don't think so, from that standpoint. Do I think Golden State's going to be playing for the championship? Yeah. I think they're, Dallas isn't going to shoot as poorly from 3-point as they did, because they missed a lot of open ones, especially in the first half. But boy, that defense is quite sticky that Golden State can play. And also the one thing that they do that Phoenix did not do is they get the rebound and they go. They don't wait around. Chris Paul has a tendency to walk the ball up the floor. Okay. Anybody gets a rebound or a steal, the first thing they do, the head goes up and there's somebody running down the sides. Okay. And that's how you don't let Dallas's defense set up. You attack it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not forget Dallas got blown out in the first two games at Phoenix and came back to win that series. So, but whole different dynamic because of the rosters of both teams. Like you alluded to, Phoenix, you look at their season long numbers and their field goal attempts way down compared to Golden State, who likes to play at a faster pace. So it's going to be an adjustment for the Mavericks. I could tell you, Jimmy Butler from Miami, I agree, Doug, a very underrated player. When he first came up with Chicago, he was a real good defensive player as well. And people forget about that because he's scoring, I think it was his third game of 40+ points in this postseason. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's at least 3, if not 4. But we forget this guy he's an all NBA defensive player. I mean, when he wants to play defense, he could lock you down. I will say this though, Boston played without Marcus Smart.
Right.
And Marcus Smart is the NBA Defensive Player of the Year. He is probable to play tonight, which is Thursday. And I could rest assured they're going to put him on Jimmy Butler to lock him up. Okay. So I'm not saying that Jimmy Butler won't have a good game, but he's certainly not going to score 40 plus, in my opinion. I'm going to go out on a limb. How's that, Doug? So
no, see the easier answer is say, I don't think he'll score 40 again. So if he scores 50, that way you're good.
yeah,
See,
yeah, exactly right. There you go.
so
The New York Mets lose another starting pitcher. Their bad break for the Mets is Max Scherzer went down with an oblique injury. Doug, I think you said the estimated time that he'll be out is 6 to 8 weeks.
yep.
Anything else in the world of Major League
Well,
Baseball
it's
betting?
just, I'm not one to buy into, the thing about necessarily bad luck, but I gotta say, the Mets in the last few years have had more than their fair share of bad luck in terms of injuries. Some of it you could kind of make sense of, from that standpoint. And let's face it, Scherzer's, he's been somewhat more injury prone later in his career. So that's not a complete surprise, but 6 to 8 weeks is a long time. It's one thing to have it be 2, but have that. DeGrom's, has had a few more injuries of late. He's not necessarily old, but he's 30, what is he, 33? I think he is.
Yeah, early 30s.
He's pitched a lot of innings.
Yep.
So that's kind of a thing. But I mean, and Tyler McGill, there's really no reason. Again, that seemingly is just bad luck. So, it's a tough deal for them. And I don't know where they're gonna. There's not a lot of guys, down on the, down on the farm or down that they could do. And do you make trades? I mean, that doesn't seem like a great option, from that standpoint. Maybe it is. I don't think their farm system is that good to where they have a lot. So it's just kind of tough luck, from that standpoint. I would like to throw out one other thing too, Ross. I know we've touched on this, humidors, there's still an ongoing discussion of the baseball. And one of the things I read yesterday in The Athletic, it talked about, the humidor, and it talked about Philadelphia, had that big hot series at Dodger Stadium where they scored all those runs and did all that. But they said, the teams are trying to avoid talking about the humidor aspect of it. But the one thing they said about the humidor that I thought was fascinating is they said that the impact, we'll find out more once the weather starts to warm up in all these areas where it's been chilly. And it's like, okay, you've had a humidor in Colorado since basically the fourth or fifth season they were there. Yeah. And so they've used it. And now the air is drier and also it's at elevation. But if you're going to hit these humidors, wouldn't you have maybe contacted Colorado and say, hey, you know what? When it's a little cooler, does it have a bigger impact than when it is in the summertime?
Yeah,
I don't know.
You would think.
I'm clearly missing something there, obviously.
Yeah, no doubt. Getting back to your Mets, though, and I appreciate
not my Mets. No. The Mets.
Your Mets topic. How's that?
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. All right, and now that we got that corrected,
Yes.
I even go back to when they had Noah Syndergaard. He couldn't stay healthy either.
Nope.
So I mean, they had a potential of a tremendous pitching staff in this year too. But it's not like you're going to be able to reach down in AAA, like Doug said, and replace starting pitchers at the major league level, let alone the starting pitchers, the caliber of a Jacob deGrom or Max Scherzer or Tyler McGill. These guys are all proven. McGill, not so much, but the other guys are all proven. But hey, I wouldn't panic and make a trade. No, I wouldn't do that. I mean, whatever the timetable is, you do have a comfortable lead in the NL East. And I would, before I made a knee-jerk reaction, my personal opinion is I would hold off on that and see where it goes a little bit. But
and I'd also get a rosary, because it's not like Carlos Carrasco is guaranteed to make 30 starts this year.
No, but he's pitching well. He is.
Oh, no, he's pitching very well. Yeah. I'm just saying that, that would be, boy, I mean, if that happened to him, oh my goodness, that would be tragic, really.
He's going to have to take a larger role. There's no two ways about it. But, again, this Carrasco, to me, has been an erratic pitcher over the last couple of years.
Yes.
With Cleveland. And he's got off to a good start with the Mets. So let's see what happens. Some interesting notes there, Doug. Very good points you brought up. And let's finalize with this. What do you got for a free pick for Friday the 20th?
Well, I mentioned the Philadelphia Phillies, and they are going to host the Los Angeles Dodgers after beating them 3 out of 4 last week. Now, what fascinates me about this one is the total. Okay, the total is at 8.5, which is exactly what it was last week when Julio Urias faced Ranger Suarez. In that game, the Urias had a terrible game. He gave up 4 home runs after giving up 5 on the season prior to that. But yet his ERA is still 3.0. Suarez's ERA is higher, but the Phillies have won 6 of his 7 starts. Okay, from that standpoint. So, in terms of how this, meshes together, they easily went over the 8.5 last week. It was 8-3. Philadelphia won. But since then, Philadelphia's bats have cooled. Last I saw that, they got shut out, I think 2 nights ago. They scored 3 runs yesterday, and they hadn't scored through 8 innings today. So the bats have certainly cooled off. But in Suarez's 7 starts, they've averaged 6.7 runs per game. Now, is he just basically like a good luck charm? Sometimes it happens with pitchers, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we've seen that. I went and looked at some of the various books, and when I saw the 8.5, and I ended up looking at it, and 2 books have actually bumped their price from 8.5 to 9 for tomorrow. So that tells me something about what the opinion is of the odds makers on this particular game. Now I'm looking at the Dodgers. They're 12-4 over this month, Ross. And these 2 teams, they're both in the top 8 in runs scored against left-handed starters, and combined, they're 18-8 over against softballs, which is a word you don't hear much anymore, by the way. And being left-handed, I would know that. Now, and in this one, I'm looking at, let's just say the 2 teams get to 8. Okay, it's the 7th or 8th inning. Well, you know what? The Phillies bullpen is pretty reliable. Okay, they're 26th in ERA. Okay, in runs allowed.
I was going to say, where are you going with this one? Go ahead.
And reliable in the fact that they give up runs. And it's not lost on me that now in the bullpen, there's a fire truck along with a Dalmatian, okay, that's in there. So you know what? I'm going to say take the over 8.5 with the Dodgers and the Phillies on Friday night.
Can't disagree, buddy. The Phillies and the Dodgers over 8.5 on Friday, May the 20th. That's Doug Upstone's free selection. Let's get to mine. St. Louis at Pittsburgh. NL Central battle, 6:35 p.m. Eastern time. Game will be played in Pittsburgh. This line opened with the Cardinals -135. It quickly went up to -145 right off the bat. 7-2 with my last 9 free picks, by the way, folks. Let's make it 8-2. Adam Wainwright gets the start for the St. Louis Cardinals. He is 6-0 in his team starts versus Pittsburgh since 2020. Not only are the Cardinals winning with Wainwright on the mound against Pittsburgh, but his ERA of 0.43 is just unfathomable and just tremendous. Not only the 0.43 ERA, Doug, but he's averaging 6 or more. He went 6 or more innings on each occasion. So he's giving them innings too. It's not like he's 0.43 ERA and averaging 4.2 innings pitched per start, which we see with a lot of starters these days. Wainwright also comes in good form off his last 3 starts with a 2.37 ERA and an 0.84 whip. He's only allowed 3 home runs in 7 starts. That's 0.43 home runs per start. That's 0.43, I should say, home runs per start he's allowing. And why am I bringing that up? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Pittsburgh Pirates are 6-27 since last year when facing starting pitchers that allow 0.50 or less home runs per start, and they lose those games by an average of 3.3 runs per contest. St. Louis, by the way, dominated Pittsburgh over the last few seasons since 2020. The Cardinals are 11-3 against the Pirates. The Pirates coming off a 3-2 win on Wednesday at Wrigley Field against the Cubs. They did have today off, which is Thursday. So they had exactly one day off going into tomorrow. And by the way, they're 0-4 this year with exactly 1 day off. And on top of that, like I alluded to, they won against the Cubs in their last outing. Pittsburgh has gone 1-8 in their last 9 following a win. And lastly, the Pittsburgh Pirates, they're averaging 1.3 runs per game in their last 7. They've only hit 2 home runs over that course of time, and their team batting average 160, and they're facing Wainwright. Okay. And one, I forgot to mention this. I said one last thing. How about 2 last things?
Okay.
The St. Louis Cardinals, you allow me that, right, Doug? The St. Louis Cardinals are 23-8 since the start of last year as a road favorite of 110 or higher. And they outscored their opponents in those games by 2.1 runs per game. Minus 145 crosses the preface of where I like to go. So I'm going to lay the 1.5 here with St. Louis. Going to take a little bit of a risk here at money line odds of plus 120 over the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's St. Louis minus 1.5 plus 120 over the Pirates. And Doug Upstone, the Dodgers and the Phillies over 8.5. Both of those selections go on Friday, May the 20th. And folks, don't go anywhere because Doug's going to tell you exactly how he's been doing of late and where you could find it.
Yes, I am at Doc Sports, as I always say on Ross's show here. So things continue to go well in the NBA. 56-28 going into Thursday night. So that's 66.6%. All coming up on 4 months. The 21st, January 21st is when the streak started. So things have gone exceedingly well and looking to continue. And one thing, Ross, that I've really had great luck with is first half bets in the playoffs. 6-0 on first half bets. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to have another one necessarily right now, but they've gone very well. So just now turns out all those games covered for the game itself also, but it just, I just kind of found something that's working. So that's been going extremely well. So I'll have picks. I'm going to be, though, I will say now that we're down to just 1 game a day, I'm definitely going to be more selective. I'm not going to just put out a play just to have a play, just to try and make some money. Okay. I want to win my plays. So that's one fundamental difference as opposed to there's plenty of sites that, demand, I guess maybe is the right word, that you put out plays. And Ross knows where those places are too. So that's going on. NHL playoffs, been fun as could be, okay, in terms of the watching them on a nice 12-7 run. And the thing that I had discussed with Ross off the air about a series starters has done extremely well too. Yes, you're going to lose some games, but you have an opportunity in game 2 to make some of those up. And I have definitely on that. So it's been fun. And so I'm looking forward to more coming up this weekend. And I got a couple of situations that are lining up to use over the weekend in the NHL. And, of course, got the Preakness horse race coming up. And, we didn't get into it, but I'll just say this. You know what? If Epicenter's not at the top of your ticket, okay, you're missing out. So figure out what you want to do from there, but take Epicenter. It could lose just like it did in the Derby. Okay, but it's still the right horse to play in order to win or for your exactas and trifectas too.
There you have it. That's Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. Myself, you could find me at rbwins.com. Couple tough days the last 2 days, folks. I lost both of my 10-star top plays, which burns me when that happens. But, even though I lost those last 2 10-star top plays, 24-8 with my last 32 10-star top plays, which are my best bets. And I never give out more than one of those a day. And there's times I don't give out any. Also, in the NBA, since April 1st, continue to roll in the NBA, 34-18 with my picks in the NBA, which is good for 65%. Major League Baseball on a modest 20-13 run, which is good for 61%. All good things at rossbenjaminsports.com, rbwins.com, whatever URL you want to use. One other thing before we leave. Don't forget about my guarantee, every single game and multi-game daily packages. If you don't make a profit, you don't win. I credit your account for the amount of the purchase price. So you lose a $35 pick, you get $35 back into your account to use that toward any future purchase. Also, new subscribers, new registrants, I should say. If you register and you haven't registered before at my site, I should say, you're going to get $100 sign up bonus that you can use toward any of the packages you wish to like. So anyway, until the next time, for Doug Upstone of DocSports.com and Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com, don't forget our free picks, the Cardinals -1.5 plus 120 over the Pirates. And Doug's got the over 8.5, Doug, in the game between the Dodgers and Phillies. Correct. And so 2-0, we're going to go for you tonight or tomorrow, I should say. So until the next time, folks, good luck and God bless.